What do you want to get into first, ladies?
All together now. Let's say Epstein.
Yay! Yeah, because there's okay. So one big piece that hit was kind of interesting for me because they came out with the will that was signed coincidentally 2 days before his alleged suicide. And what intrigued me on that was who was listed as the two executors, Darren Indyke, if I'm saying that right, and Richard Kahn. And I looked at it and I'm like, God, Kahn, why do I know this name? So I started looking through my notes, and lo and behold, I had done a report called the Jeffrey Epstein St. Thomas Network, Comms in an Elite School. And we covered that, I think, either in episode 7 or 8 of our podcast, which is over on Hive Mind. So if anyone missed it, we covered that report there. And Erica Kellerhouse is listed along with Richard Kahn and Darren Indyke, the two executors. They are listed on Jeffrey Epstein's business on his tax returns under Gratitude America Ltd. So those two were the VP and president, and Erica Kellerhouse is listed as the secretary and treasurer, and she holds the documents. So she's covered in my report because she is on the board of Antilles School, which is like the hub of this whole network. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then of course, they then report that Boris Nikolic is the successor executor in case, Kahn and Indyke can't fulfill their roles, who he happened to be a former Gates advisor. And I haven't dug into him at all. Have you, Edge?
Not yet. That is on the docket for, it's on the list.
Nice. Well, I'd be curious if you're going to dig into that, because I have about 3 reports lined up right now. Let me know if Indyke or Kahn have any affiliation with Antilles School as well. I'd be curious to know that.
Very curious. The gentleman who is named the executor successor, he's very much into genetic editing and a former advisor to Bill Gates. I did not find that as a coincidence. He claims that he does not want to be the executor of the will should Indyke and Kahn not be able to follow through with their roles. And we'll get into that in a second, because I know that Indyke has recently obtained a criminal defense lawyer as the investigation continues into co-conspirators. So it's possible that Kahn and Indyke may not be able to follow through with their roles, but he's claiming he had no prior knowledge to being listed as an executor or a successor executor, and he doesn't want to carry through with that role. So
I would imagine not many people would. And we're talking about a $577+ million will here that was moved into a trust called the 1953 Trust, which is the year Epstein was born. And thus far, we don't know anything about beneficiaries. Nothing's been said about that.
Yeah, no beneficiaries have been listed that we know of yet, that the public has been made aware of. So,
right. And some other interesting tidbits that came out this week is that his attorneys are conducting an investigation into his alleged suicide, and they want videos if they exist. But I think we've pretty much since learned that they did not have videos on his specific cell. And of course, prior to that, we heard there was a malfunction with videos. I'm assuming they meant like in the hallways themselves, but I haven't spent time digging into that aspect of it. So it's a shit show. It
is. I'm hoping some information comes to light with the Epstein's attorneys' investigations of these cameras through the discovery process, that we learn more maybe of what happened to those cameras.
And if there really isn't, they're really investigating that, or if that's just, for show. I'm kind of curious about that. But then we also had the director of the Bureau of Prisons, Hugh Hurwitz, was fired, 1 week after, because, they have to shame someone. So another thing that dropped was, of course, the photo of Maxwell, which we later found was staged.
That was as fake as it comes.
Totally.
Yeah, and the book.
Bad.
Did you see that clip? I think it was on Fox News where they were saying like the book that she, that was sitting on the table or sitting next to her ended up selling tons of copies after that photo dropped. It's just, our world is so crazy, isn't it?
It is. And for those listeners who haven't heard this story yet, so Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, was spotted in an In-N-Out burger in LA. And I think it was the New York Post had broke this story. And it turned out that Maxwell had staged the entire photo op through her attorney, who actually took the pictures. And Maxwell was seen holding a book, reading a book that was about the CIA lives and deaths. So it seemed to be some sort of coded message, not really sure what she was attempting to tell, maybe others in the intel community, perhaps maybe that she's talking. I'm not sure. But we also learned that those photos appear to be photoshopped. So
Worst shops ever.
yeah.
Like, so bad.
Yeah, really bad.
And then another tidbit that is rather interesting is the $50,000 cement truck he had sent over to Little St. James just weeks before he was arrested. And we don't know exactly what that was for, but there's a lot of speculation out there.
Covering up evidence.
Right. Oh, and I just want to mention, did we mention this last week? I forget. The story that was going around about the kids' bones being found under the water by the island and da-da-da.
No, we didn't.
This is really frustrating for me when I see this stuff, because first off, just seeing that headline without even knowing where it came from is totally, completely unbelievable and unrealistic. That's not how this would be managed if there were kids' bones there. Secondly, the report originated from the Kremlin. Have people learned nothing? Anything that comes out of there is going to be completely manufactured, because people then pick it up over here and start spreading misinformation. So I really encourage people to pay attention to that type of stuff and think about it and process it before making something like that go viral, because it just creates more confusion.
It did go viral, yes. And
it went totally viral in hours. It was ridiculous.
And what we need to understand is that this is going to happen. They want a lot of disinformation and misinformation to come out so that the truth is obfuscated. It's you don't get to know what is actually going on because there's so much misinformation.
But as truth is, it also makes us look really bad. And it also makes us look like we don't know what we're talking about. And
right.
Look at the shit they're spreading. You know what I mean? How can we believe anything that they say when they're falling for this?
So we just have to be very careful to verify everything, make sure that there's multiple sources or legitimate sources that are stating what they're stating before putting it out there.
And then I think you actually might have done a short thread on this, Edge. The video, I think it was in the Daily Mail, the video of the women and girls going in and out of his mansion in New York where Prince Andrew was. And one of them turned out to be the daughter of the Australian Prime Minister, and there was a Standard Hotel connection in there. So you want to talk about that?
Yes. So Catherine Keating, who is the former Australian Prime Minister's daughter, she is a socialite. She was the girl who was seen leaving Epstein's home, as that footage that has now gone viral of Prince Andrew waving goodbye from within Epstein's home. So she was the girl. They identified her, but she also dated the founder of the Standard Hotels. He stepped down, I think, in 2017. Standard Hotel has had a lot of eyes on it for a year or two now, just with the associations with the elite, associations with Abramovich, associations with Adam Schiff, but also with pedophilic sort of imagery on social media and on their website, and just a lot of citizen investigative journalists have done a lot of digging into this hotel chain, and it's very, very questionable. So definitely suspect.
Is she the daughter of Paul Keating? Do I get that all right?
Her name's Catherine Keating, and she's the
Yeah,
daughter of the former Prime Minister of
okay.
Australia.
I think it's Paul Keating because I've actually met him. That's why there was the moral of the story. I've actually met Paul Keating. I sat next to him in a plane once.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Did you talk at all?
Yeah, a little bit. But I was like 15. My dad was a big fan. They talked all flight. So my dad was a businessman back in the day. So it
Yeah.
was just an interesting story to check out. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we need to start digging into you now and your family, Speaker?
Please don't.
And wasn't there like a year ago, maybe two? I don't know. Time flies. Isn't there a helicopter crash or something where the
Yes.
people in it were connected to the Standard Hotel as well?
Yeah.
And that happened to be around the same time a lot of us were kind of poking around with the Standard Hotel.
Yes. So it was a general manager of a Standard Hotel who died in a helicopter crash. If anybody follows QAnon, they would know that this connection has been made between that particular helicopter crash to Adam Schiff and to the Standard Hotel as some sort of cover-up. So we don't know the full story on that, but yes, there was in fact a helicopter crash involving a general manager from the Standard Hotel.
The other little piece of info that came out is that when he was on, I guess we call it work release, pretty much not serving time in prison, the first go round back in 2008, was it, I believe? He was allowed to and was ordering small female panties that were smaller than they said what would fit an adult woman. This is when he was on leave the first time. And I believe, aren't they now doing some investigations into those that were responsible for his sort of oversight of that work leave and whatnot?
Yes, there's an investigation, a criminal investigation currently underway in Florida as to how the work release program for Epstein was handled under the sheriff there.
So those are all pretty much my notes on Epstein. Did you have anything else to add, you guys?
I think the last time we talked, we did not cover the autopsy and how the broken bone in his neck was not consistent with a suicide. It was much more likely that it was a homicide.
Yeah, because that happened after our last podcast when they finally the medical examiner made her ruling, and of course saying that it's suicide.
I called it. I told you before. I wrote a tweet like half an hour before. I was like, let's guess the result. We all knew it was going to be called that. Come on.
Right. And what do you guys think of this? Some people have brought up, well, wouldn't he have had a dead man switch, And I've kind of pondered this, and I'm thinking, well, there's a couple ways that could be done. And if it's done through technology and he's not checking in, then it would automatically release. And where would that technology be to where there wasn't some form of eyes on it or oversight? Because we know this guy had handlers and had some serious oversight. So I'm not sure how it would play out. And then I thought, well, is there someone that he would have trusted to release it? Well, who in the heck would have the balls at this point to release it?
If I were in his position, I would have a dead man switch. So I honestly don't know why he didn't, or if perhaps he did and it didn't go through. I do know and have heard that he was in good spirits prior to his death, that he was very optimistic about the outcome of the case, as though it was in the bag. So
there was a female visitor, wasn't it, a week or two? And we don't know who that is, do we?
We don't.
Nothing's been released on that.
Huh.
So it makes me feel like he just his guard was down, perhaps. He felt secure in the fact that he was going to get off on these charges.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, extraction, suicide, and murder are all still on the table. I don't feel like I have enough evidence going in either of those directions to even 100% rule one of those out.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well, because it's one of those things you really can't say for sure. I mean, you can theorize and you can just kind of pick out of the hat. But at this point in time, we really haven't seen that much or known that much. Apart from those body pictures getting taken out, it's even those, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff can easily be staged. So we really don't know.
And then you look at his connections and his money. I mean, this man was so connected. And then you look at the the scientific connections, and you just think, wow. I mean, really, anything is plausible here.
Right. I feel like even if he thought he was going to die, he wasn't even worried about it because he thought he had some sort of plan with all of his scientific experiments and transhumanism. I really feel like he thought he had some sort of backup plan there.
But we also know these people think they're untouchable.
Yes.
They have that mindset.
Right. Right.
I'm leaning, I think if I were to prioritize the likelihood of the scenarios, in my opinion, extraction makes more sense to me than homicide scenario seems more likely. I would put suicide way down there just because we do have evidence that, the injury that he received is not consistent with suicide. It can happen, but it's a very small percentage that actually does happen in suicide as opposed to homicide. So
right.
And you got to think about that meeting that he had with this person, the guards being laid off for time. It's set up for a whole different bunch of scenarios.
Right.
It really is. Like something's happened, but will we ever know? I doubt it.
It's like the ultimate game of Clue. Oh my God, that
it is.
Yeah,
it is.
Name. These people are devious and conniving and lying and manipulative, and just so many things are plausible that it's a matter of it's like the ultimate game of Clue. My God.
It is.